Today it's game 2 of a weekend 3-game set. Chicago and St. Louis on the Fox Saturday Baseball Game of the Week. And now welcome to the broadcast booth, everybody. I'm Joe Buck. Tim McCarver is coming right up. Well, the Cubs have had a long, frustrating season, no doubt. And as we approach the trading deadline tomorrow, they're looking to get rid of players. The Cardinals, on the other hand, are trying to add. Deal number 1 paid off last night as Edwin Jackson was outstanding in a 9-2 win over Chicago. And it appears, Tim, that the Cardinals are very close to adding Rafael Furcal to play short in what's really been a crazy tight NL Central this year.
Well, because the Cardinals are perennial contenders, they're very active around the trade deadline. You may remember in 2004 they picked up Larry Walker, the great outfielder, and a couple of years ago picking up Matt Holliday, and all things point to Rafael Furcal being a Cardinal by tomorrow night.
And so, why do we talk about this? Well, the NL Central has been turning over left and right. Pirates, Brewers, Cardinals, Brewers, Pirates. Don't forget about the Reds. Brewers, Pirates, Cardinals. Baseball next on Fox. Which is, I think, the coolest it's been in St. Louis since the 30th of December. Not exactly true, but that's how it feels around here, and I'm sure that's how it would feel if we were in Chicago. The opening pitch will be brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Well, that wasn't, Tim McCarver, a bad debut for Edwin Jackson last night as a Cardinal, as he beat his new rival, the Chicago Cubs, by going 7, allowing a run on 7 hits, struck out 4, walked 2, and showed his good stuff. He's got great stuff.
I think as much as anything going 7 innings, because the Cardinals have had problems with their bullpen throughout the year, and not only giving up only 1 run. Actually, the Cubs had the lead in that game. But Edwin Jackson, very impressive last night.
A guy who's bounced around, and then that asks, or at least begs the question, why?
Right.
He's been with the Dodgers, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Arizona, the White Sox. For about 2 seconds, he was with Toronto. That's where the Cardinals got him in that swap. 8 guys moving around, and he's a big piece. The problem for the Cardinals, and why in some areas the deal was ripped, is because Edwin Jackson is a free agent to be, and if they don't bring him back, and Colby Rasmus, if the light bulb ever goes on someday and he figures it out, he's not even 25 yet, then maybe the Cardinals got the short end of the deal. But for La Russa, some of the players, that drama had played itself out, and it was time to make a move. Colby Rasmus is in Toronto, and Edwin Jackson is in the rotation.
Edwin Jackson had a chance to make history for the Cardinals last night. In fact, he's the first pitcher to win at least 1 game with 6 different teams before his 28th birthday.
And he's got electrifying stuff.
Yes,
there is no doubt about that. And he will be a big addition to this Cardinal rotation. He can hit the upper 90s on the radar gun, and that's something the Cardinals right now just don't have. There are the umpires. The crew chief is Darrell Cousins. The St. Louisan, Ron Kolpa's behind the plate. Jim Wolf is at first, and DJ Rayburn worked the plate last night. And by the way, DJ Rayburn is not spinning records at a local club later tonight. That's his name, DJ Rayburn. He is the umpire over at third. And so right in the heart of all the action is Kyle Loesch. And here is a lineup for the Cubs. It's brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bunt. Castro and Barney. That terrific middle infield combination for the Cubs. The 1-2 hitters. And Ramirez has been hot. Carlos Pena, Marlon Byrd, Giovanni Soto, Alfonso Soriano, who has been anything but hot. Tyler Colvin is in right. And pitching is Rodrigo Lopez, who will deal with Pujols and the rest of the Cardinals. And we need to know more about Kyle Loesch. We will give you the Sprint pitcher profile for the 32-year-old right-hander.
Pitchers have slumps just like hitters do, and Kyle Loesch in the midst of a slump. He's only 1-5 in his last 7 starts dating back to early June. He is another reclamation project for Dave Duncan. And he's just glad to be starting because of what happened to him a couple of years ago, hitting the arm by Kansas City pitcher right in the middle of the summer. A one-of-a-kind operation performed. However, he's made a great comeback, and he's got a great changeup. And you talked about DJ Rayburn. That's an appropriate lead-in to the guy who threw out the first pitch last night.
That's right. Go ahead. He's one of your all-timers, so.
Boy, is he ever. Chuck Berry, 85 years young.
And he still plays, I think, a couple of times a week. Certainly at least once at Blueberry Hill, which is a legendary place here in St. Louis on the Del Mar Loop. And that's our little plug for Joe Edwards and the gang on the loop. First pitch is a strike, and we're underway on a Saturday as Starlin Castro leads it off. And he's in the hole 0-2. Castro, Tim, of all the guys we had a chance to talk to at the All-Star game, I thought was one of the most impressive of the young stars that we visited with on the National League side.
For a young man who is about as mature as he gets, and one of his maturity from a baseball standpoint stands out in his hitting with 2 strikes. He leads the major leagues with 53 hits with 2 strikes.
And he shoots this one with 2 strikes foul down the left field line. One thing I was struck by is that Castro is a much bigger guy when you meet with him in person than I think you get the feel for when you just watch him from a distance.
I think most players are.
Here is a test for Descalso, and he kicks it. Paging Rafael Furcal. Paging Rafael Furcal. Please pick up the white courtesy phone and get to St. Louis.
Well, the Cardinals have started 5 different shortstops this year. Now, anybody who's been around baseball knows that you're not going to win a pennant without a good shortstop or a good catcher. That's an error on Daniel Descalso to start the ballgame.
And to be fair for Descalso, who's been very good, 24-year-old infielder, shortstop is not his position.
Right.
But Terrio, the former Cub, has struggled so much that they've moved Terrio out of the shortstop spot. That's why they are desperately trying to get help. Here's a bunt, and Loesch makes the play for out number 1. Down to second is Castro.
That was a good play by Kyle Loesch because Albert Pujols had charged the ball, and Loesch, realizing that, knows that if he doesn't make the tag, nobody does. I'm not too sure he tagged him.
Not either. No.
He didn't.
Unless he got him on the foot.
Left leg, maybe.
The other part of it is he's pretty well outside the baseline, going down the first baseline.
But did he call him out? I mean, the first base umpire. Yeah,
I got him on the leg.
Got him on the left leg. Yeah, that's right. Good call by Jim Wolf.
And now a pitch up and away to Aramis Ramirez. Way outside the line, but still getting him on the. Well, maybe not. But to answer your question, Jim Wolf did call him out on the tag, not for being out of the baseline.
Right.
Either way, runner at second, 1 out. And a 1-0 pitch to Aramis Ramirez from Loesch. Inside, 2-0. Ramirez had hit in 27 straight against the Cardinals until he took the collar last night in the loss here in St. Louis, and the Cubs have lost 8 of their last 10 in this park to their rival, the Cardinals. Here is a 2-0. 3-0. On deck is Pena. These are 2 guys that if the Cubs could move for younger players, you get the feeling they would do it with a trade deadline tomorrow at 3 Central. Ramirez has the right to veto a trade. He's hinted that he might be willing to waive that right in the right circumstance. A slider on 3-0, and it's a walk to put 2 on, 1 out for Pena. And Ramirez, who had been 7 for 15 against Loesch, still is, draws a walk. Here is the defense with Holiday, Jay, and Schumacher in the outfield. Terrio, the start at second base. Descalso, he's made an error today already. Pujols saying freeze with a catcher, Yadier Molina. And here is Pena, who had a terrible start beginning of this one-year deal with the Cubs, and now he has, at least power-wise, come on.
A lot of that power exhibited early in the count. 7 first-pitch home runs by Carlos Pena this year. So of his 20, 7 have been on the first pitch.
Breaking ball and strike one. We flash back to a meeting back on the 4th of June when Pena answered an earlier home run by Albert Pujols by tying that game against the man he faces right now. But a one-year deal for $10 million, and see if Pena ends the year in a Cub uniform. Strike two. A team that might have Pena on their radar is Arizona, as they are still within the chase, 4 games out in the NL West.
And you hear that often around the trade deadline, that I'll waive my no trade clause if I can go to a contender. In so many words, that means if you can arrange my contract not necessarily a contender, then I'll consider waiving my no trade clause. It's all about money. And you know, if more guys would say that, I think more people would accept that.
So you're saying it is all about the money?
Yes, I am.
And I am 100% agreeing with you. Here is a 1-2 to Pena. 2-2. Carlos started the year, first 25 games, hit 157, no home runs. But he has hit 20 in the 76 games since. Strikeouts will pile up, and he's hit 242 since that 157 start. But a guy with 250 career home runs. And the 2-2. From 0-2 to 3-2. Cubs have been good with nobody on. Okay with runners in scoring position, but still in the bottom half across baseball, 21st.
No way runners are running in this situation. Pena strikes out too much.
And a walk to load him up. So an error, a bunt, back-to-back walks, and the batter will be Marlon Byrd, who, by the way, if I was another GM and I was looking for an outfielder, this is a guy I would really look at and try and get.
Amen to that. Talk about a gamer wearing that device over his left cheek because of being hit in Boston by Alfredo Aceves about 2 months ago.
Missed 6 weeks, and he has been hot, and he pops it up on the right side. Terrio glasses on, infield fly in effect, 2 out. So Bird had a chance, and Mike Quade is clapping his hands because he doesn't want to throw anything down in the dugout. More trouble with runners in scoring position. It's up to Soto, who's sitting only 241.
Sometimes you have to clap to keep from crying.
What a first full year it's been for Quade.
Taking over August 23rd for Lou Piniella. A very good job last year, and he's done a good job this year. 24-13 with the Cubs last year.
Strike one.
I say he's done a good job this year because what are you going to do if the guys don't perform on the field? It is I would imagine, a helpless feeling for a manager.
Saw the numbers for Soto with the bases loaded, and he waits for an 0-1. And that's one into right center field. John Jay will not get it. Off the top of the wall, and 2 runs will score. A bases loaded, 2-out, 2-run double for Soto.
What happened to Carlos Pena? Carlos Pena's got to score on that ball. That ball had enough hang time to where he can be halfway between second and third but it looked like he stopped around second base. This ball almost a grand slam home run. It missed it by about 6 inches. Right above the R of America and the Bank of America sign. And Soto has 2 RBIs and I think should have 3.
Pena made it just a third, and so Loesch could not get out of trouble. And now Soriano takes the ball up and away.
If there were nobody out or 1 out, it's understandable for Carlos to stop at second base. But with 2 outs, you're going to haul it all the way from the get-go.
Soriano is hitting just 179 in July, and he takes a strike. And if you want to talk about a deal that has been an anchor around the neck of the Cubs, this is one of them. An 8-year deal, $136 million, and the production has not been there. As he shoots one into left, back at the wall. This ball is gone. And a 3-run home run for Soriano. And just like that, it is 5-0 Cubs in the first. So there's some production for a guy hitting under 180 in July.
This inning is more or less what the Cubs expected more of by their offense this year. A 5-run first inning. All runs coming so far with 2 outs. 5 runs scored with 2 outs in the first inning. And Kyle Loesch's problems continue.
He brings in Tyler Colvin, as the Cubs will send at least 8 to the plate in the first.
Not to hang everything on Daniel Descalso, but if that error is not made, perhaps the Cardinals could be out of this first without a run being scored.
Yeah, these are 5 unearned runs.
Yeah, right. But again, the importance of a good defensive shortstop, and our opening comments about the possibility or probability of obtaining Rafael Furcal of the Dodgers.
To me, that would be a big deal for St. Louis.
It would be. I agree with that.
The question has been with Furcal the last 2.5 years is health. But when he's healthy, he is one of the best defensive shortstops still, with a great arm, and he can be a leadoff hitter if he's right. And you don't have to give up much to get Furcal. I would think John Mozeliak, the Cardinal general manager, would do that in a heartbeat.
A leadoff hitter, and as Joe Torre told us about 5 years ago or 4 years ago during the National League Championship Series, a real leader in the clubhouse.
And a breaking ball, a strikeout of Colvin ends the inning, but a big inning for Chicago. Bases loaded for Soto. Almost got 1 out, scored 2. Soriano did. And it's 5-0 Cubs after a half in St. Louis. Day for Chicago, and here is the Taco Bell starting lineup for the Cardinals. Pick outside the Ontario at second, John Jay, then Pujols. Matt Holliday, David Freese, Schumacher, Molina, Descalso, and Loesch pitching and batting ninth. And Rodrigo Lopez has been, Tim, pretty good. A guy that the Cubs picked up from AAA of the Atlanta Braves, and somebody who has bounced around in his big league career.
Back in 2002, he was 15-9 for the Baltimore Orioles, running second to Eric Hinske of the Blue Jays in Rookie of the Year honors. Only the 6th start of the year, however, 5th major league team, and he's trying to return to respectability after that year in 2002. Last year, he was 7-16.
And after a look at the Sprint pitcher profile, first pitch swinging, Ontario hammers a pitch that was up from Rodrigo Lopez right into right for a base hit. It's going to be one of those days,
Could
Mr.
be.
McCarver.
I think you're right.
And now John Jay, who gets a tremendous vote of confidence from the Cardinals front office and manager by taking over in center field. And prior to the trade of Colby Rasmus, Tony La Russa was public in stating that John Jay was his center fielder. Runner is going, and just like that, maybe a missed sign. Out stealing is Terrio, one away.
You're trailing by 5 runs, and on the first pitch, you're thrown out by about 8 feet at second base. Easy play for Soto. There's no way Tony La Russa would put the hit and run on, so you really don't know what Terrio was doing there. Looks like Tony's wandering down toward the end of the bench to maybe have a word or two with Terrio.
And now Jay flies one into left for out number 2 as Soriano comes in to make the catch. When we met with La Russa before the game, he talked as Pujols stands in, wondering how this game would go because of Losh's struggles against the Cubs, because he's a little short in his bullpen. Thought he would score some runs against Rodrigo Lopez, and the Cubs put up 5 in the first. Cubs and Cardinals play tomorrow night as Lopez finds the strike zone with Pujols, who homered against Rodrigo earlier this year in St. Louis. And now the 0-1. Ball 1.
That was a walk-off home run against Lopez. His second consecutive walk-off on Saturday against Jeff Samardzija.
The 1-1. And he drives one into left. And out of here. And Albert Pujols hits career home run number 432. And his 52nd against Cub pitching. The most among active players. A line drive that didn't drop until it cleared the wall.
He does that a lot, doesn't he?
I'll say.
And that's why you're not aggressive on the bases before Pujols comes up when you're trailing by 5 runs. You want to turn a home run into at least a 2-run shot and not a solo shot. Here's Ryan Terrio after singling on the first pitch of the game for the Cardinals. So a solo shot could have been a 2-run shot.
Holiday now has hit 14 home runs on the year, and he shoots one into left center. This ball will one-hop the wall. Holiday has a 2-out double. You know, you wonder with a guy as you watch a replay of the double by Holiday, a guy like Ryan Terrio, who is a grinder, a tough guy, an effort player, former Cub, now with the Cardinals first year, who's heard about the potential acquisition of Rafael Furcal. Cardinals have Skip Schumacher, who they prefer at second base. So this has got to be an odd day for Terrio, thinking, what's my immediate future here with the Cardinals in 2011?
Yeah, I get your drift. Maybe trying too hard, trying to impress too much, knowing that perhaps his playing time is limited.
David Freese, who hit a 3-run home run last night, swung through strike 1. Missed almost 2 months with a broken left hand. He has that protection on it on the back of his batting glove as he takes down and away 1-1 strike. And Freese has been anything but cold.
Frozen.
He is hot. And when he's healthy, he's been a very good player for the Cardinals, but it's been one thing after another. There's strike 2, and here is the 3-run home run off Garza. Gave the Cardinals a 3-1 lead. Grew up in the St. Louis area, waits for a 1-2 pitch. 2-2. It's a Cardinal team that is number 1 in the National League in runs per game, 5th in home runs, but below average defensively. That has reared its ugly head again already in the first today, as that is ball 3 down and away. Cardinals and Dave Duncan preach a pitch to contact philosophy. You pitch to contact and don't have a good defense, those two don't mix. Here is a 3-2, and that'll put 2 on for Schumacher. And brings Soto out to the mound to talk to Rodrigo Lopez.
Cardinals have a good hitting team, but they are not a good home run hitting team. They're first in those 4 categories. Most of their home runs coming from Holiday and Pujols, and of course Lance Berkman, who may be playing tomorrow but isn't in there today.
Here is Schumacher, and there is strike 1. Berkman has a strain in his right rotator cuff, which he hurt last Sunday. The Cardinals were in Pittsburgh. He wanted to play today. The Cardinals want him to take an extra day, so probably tomorrow night against Dempster. Here is the 0-1. Berkman, who leads the NL with 27 home runs, tied for 5th with 69 RBIs, and has resurrected his career in a Cardinal uniform here in 2011. Here comes a 1-1. Ball 2, and Lopez doesn't look too impressive here in the first.
Yeah, to give you an idea of what we were talking about, the trio of Pujols, Holiday, and Berkman have 65 of the 106 home runs the Cardinals have hit this year. But the Cardinals have thrived in situations like this. Schumacher, a very good clutch hitter.
In fact, the Cardinals as a team are hitting .301 with runners in scoring position. Last team to do that in the National League was the 2000 Colorado Rockies. Enough stats for you? Okay, we'll stop. Here's a 3-1. And a full count. As they say, Schumacher offered at it, and the runners will go. Lead man is Holiday. David Freese does not run well behind him at first. And a base hit up the middle. That'll make it a 5-2 game as Schumacher delivers with 2 out.
Boy, I'll tell you, that's a yummy hit for a hitter. 3-2 count, ball 4 out of the strike zone, curveball about ankle high, and watch Schumacher go down and get it. Tried to backhand it, did Lopez. Freeze easily to third base, and the Cardinals tack on another.
And so we've had a total of 7 runs, 6 hits in this first inning, 3 walks handed out total. 2 by Loesch, who is looking for a reprieve on the bench. Another start, a redo. And now it's up to Yadier Molina for St. Louis, and Yadier's had a good season swinging the bat.
Joe, I don't know about you, but it seems like a millennia since I've seen a game where 7 runs were scored in the first inning, all with 2 outs. 5 by the Cubs, 2 by the Cardinals. It's usually the early innings, it's a time for cheap runs, like infield plant back,
right.
Ground ball to short, score a run, move a runner to third, score another one, ground ball to second. But not in this game so far.
And Molina trying to tack on more. First and third, 2 out. Ball 1. This has been a long first inning for Rodrigo Lopez. For the Cubs and their starters, they have allowed the most runs across baseball in the first inning. Here is a 1-0. Lopez sneaks a 90-mile-an-hour fastball in for strike one. Molina's already tied a career high with his 8 home runs. And against the Cubs this year, hitting .417. Ball 2, 2-1.
Is this game being played in Wrigley Field with the wind blowing out? It seems like it does.
Feels like it. We're almost at 30 minutes for this first inning. Not much wind. We have plenty of rain early. Here's a 2-1. 2-2. See, Brian McCann is the only catcher, and that's Molina's average. While as a catcher, swinging the bat .291. McCann, who's on the DL for Atlanta's at .313. Descalso, who committed that error to open the top of the first, to open the floodgates, is on deck, and the count 2-2 on Molina. Fly ball into center for Bird. That'll do it for inning number 1. And what has this inning featured a lot, including career hit number 2001 at left the park. Albert Pujols hits 5 to Chicago after 1 on what is now a muggy day in St. Louis. By Taco Bell, think outside the bun. Buy DirecTV now. NFL Sunday Ticket is included when you switch to DirecTV. And by Listerine, rethink clean Listerine. And I can only tell you, after what, 16 years together, I can tell you where Tim ate dinner on Friday night.
Oh, correct.
After our on cameras on Saturday afternoons.
That is so tacky.
On the heels of our Listerine ad.
My gosh.
Here is Rodrigo Lopez, and he takes a strike. Just kidding. Nobody spends more time on their breath than Tim McCarver. The 0-1. Strike 2.
I think somewhere in the middle of those two remarks.
Not true. I go to you for Altoids, gum, and what do we have? Icebreakers Frost today.
Yes.
Little bailout swing, and that is out number 1. Because our producer is a nerd, he likes to compile things. Pete Macheska. 2 home runs, 2 doubles, 7 runs, 3 walks, and I'm shocked that there's not an elapsed time on there somewhere or total pitches thrown. 29 minutes, says nerd Macheska. Here is Starlin Castro. Talked about how big he is, and you can see when he fills out. You can understand why, combined with the errors he's made it short. A lot believed him that he will end up a third baseman in the big leagues.
Well, you better make sure before you make that move. I think right now he's got too much range at shortstop. He had 27 errors last year. He does have a penchant for errors, but I don't think that's going to improve your hands by moving from short to third.
Right off the end of the bat, and Terrio hauls in out number 2. And we'll bring in Darwin Barney. Talking about the Cubs, it is an organization that made some big bets with contracts. talked about Soriano right before he hit a home run, saying that he hadn't produced like they hoped. But that is the case. Milton Bradley, Carlos Zambrano. And they tried to win in what they knew was a window. Those bets have not paid off, and that window with some of those players appears as if it is, if not totally closed, on its way to being closed and locked up, and it's time to retool. One thing they do have are some young arms in this organization and guys up the middle that can play. This is one of them, Darwin Barney, who is out number 3 as he flies to right. Bottom of the second in St. Louis. Descalso, Loesch, Theriot coming up. Cubs up by 3. First up is Descalso for St. Louis. And he takes a wide strike to start his at bat. Guy's been hitting .296 since the 1st of June. .435 with runners in scoring position. He's in the hole 0-2. You can focus on that error in the first, but this guy's been a godsend for La Russa, playing all over.
Good player.
And he played very well in the absence of David Freese when he was out for almost 2 months at third. Still 0-2.
He's a typical Tony La Russa type player. Tony tries to expand the roster by using his 25-man roster, a lot of the middle infielders and outfielders in other positions, and he does a great job of it, telling us before the game that it's a lot easier for a guy like Skip Schumacher to move from second base to the outfield than it is the other way around.
Here is a 1-2, and it looked like he went around. He did, and that's out number 1. And the first strikeout of the day for Rodrigo Lopez.
Well, Daniel wanted to hold up on this changeup, but couldn't. He went too far.
So 1 out, and Kyle Loesch will have to swing the bat. Talked about the injury that Loesch suffered on May 23rd back in 09 when he was hit by Ron Mayhay on the right forearm. And that never got healthy in 09. He was on the DL twice with it. Said he lost the touch and feel of his pitches, and he had to undergo a surgery that had not been performed on a Major League Baseball player. Nice catch by Colvin in right, 2 out.
Well, that's a fine play by Ty Colvin, cheating with the pitcher up there, and he well should, and makes a very nice backhanded sliding catch.
But just to finish, they relieved the pressure in that right forearm and allowed those blood cells to expand, and that is what has allowed Kyle Loesch, who got off to a great start this season on the mound and who has been struggling, to come back as strong as he has. Nothing wrong with his stuff. The results just have not been there of late. Just 1-5 since the end of May, with an ERA of 5.5, and he's on the short end today. Theriot grounds to Barney, and that ends the inning. We will go to the third. Nice catch by Tyler Colvin in right to Rob Loesch. 5-2 Cubs after 2. AT&T Rethink Possible as we go into the third inning, and first pitch swinging is Ramirez, and Aramis flies one into left for a holiday, and we are very pleased and happy to have the Cardinals general manager John Mozeliak in the booth with us. So are you busy these days, and is your ear getting sore from putting your cell phone up to it day after day?
All the above. I mean, obviously it's an exciting time for the Cardinals. We are definitely trying to improve. You look at this window we have to try to win with the players we have in place, and so we've been pretty aggressive this time of year, and obviously we still have about 24 hours left in this, and we're still trying to add a few pieces.
You know, it's got to be interesting when you're in your position and you're around this team, or if you're Tony La Russa, as Pena grounds out to Pujols. 2 out. And by the way, I'm not even going to ask you this interview if you're going to sign Albert Pujols. So just put that off.
That's a first.
For another day. When you're making deals and it's being either criticized or applauded or evaluated, let's say, from the outside, and people, including me, certainly Tim, don't know the personalities involved or what you believe you need, there's more to it than just potential and raw numbers.
Well, I think there's a lot of complexities in any deal you make, and certainly on the surface it's easy to look at when players have years of control or what people are getting paid. But for us, it was really about how could we make an impact on this club for 2011 and do it quickly without having to really just take advantage of our very deep minor league system right now, where we would really empty the cupboard. So this was an opportunity to improve for today, and we still think we have a lot coming, so we feel good about where the organization is.
Yeah, and as Bird is in the hole now 0-2, I say that obviously with regard to the Rasmus deal. People say, well, he's 24, not 25 yet. He's got all this potential, but the more I think about the deal, to me, the more it makes sense. And you had to be thrilled with the way Edwin Jackson pitched last night.
Well, absolutely. When you look at that starting pitching market right now, there's just not a lot out there. And to have someone come in and make the impact he did is just something that we needed, because our starting pitching was starting to hemorrhage. And it was something that if we tried to go into August and September with what we had, I just don't know if it would have been good enough.
Here is a fly ball into center. Can you stay for the bottom half? That's John Mozeliak, a 1-2-3 inning by Kyle Loesch. And as we go to the bottom of the third, with a view of the mighty Mississippi, it's 5-2 Cubs. America, find out how to play and register your crew at bandofbuds.com. We are going to submit the names of Joe, John, and Tim as a band of buds as we welcome you back to the bottom of the third inning. 5-2 Cubs. John Jay shoots one into center for Marlon Byrd. One out. Of course, the game slows down and now it's flying along, but John Mozeliak, the Cardinal GM, I haven't even been able to ask you. The reports are you're close on Rafael Furcal, which would fill a huge need for you. How close is that something that could get done by the end of the day?
Well, we're hopeful. I mean, we're working on a few things right now, and when you look at some of the needs this club still has, defensively has been a big hole for us. And so if we can improve that in the next 24 hours, we're certainly going to try.
Here is Albert Pujols, who homered his first time up. Are you going to sign out? Never mind. Strike one.
I could ask that.
Corner.
I didn't say.
That's right. You
I
asked
didn't
it.
say that, but I wasn't going to ask John if he's going to sign.
Well, I wanted
Pujols.
to deal in the immediate, but I mean it's always appropriate.
So you've already committed though.
No.
So I'll ask John. Are you going to sign Albert Pujols?
Well, right now we're playing for today.
Here's an infield hit as Castro lost his footing, and maybe another base hit. Compliments of you too.
I think this field looks great given what it's been.
It does. You have a great head of grounds crew here, and Bill Finley, and you had to resod the entire thing after you two was here on.
I mean, those guys did an amazing job. I mean, first off, it's been 100 degrees here for the last 10 days, and to have this field in the shape they do, it's amazing.
All right, go ahead. Don't duck the question. Pujols.
I already told them we're playing for today, but I'll worry about that tomorrow.
All right. Fine. I knew we weren't going to get an answer. That's why I didn't want to ask.
Of course not. Yeah.
1 on, 1 out for Matt Holliday.
It is interesting, though, when you consider Albert Pujols and the fact that he's in his 11th year, and if he were to be injured, God forbid, injured where he couldn't play anymore, I think the general consensus is he would still be a Hall of Famer.
Well, I mean, his numbers are historic, what he's done. And, I mean, what he's meant to this organization in this city, he's an iconic player, and, you know, all of us who have been around him are very lucky.
Here is a high fly ball into center. Pujols is tagging, and he will go with a wide throw. He is a good base runner, and he just showed it right there. He's at second, 2 out.
Yeah, Albert Pujols' wisdom expands well past hitting consistently and hitting the ball out of the ballpark. An outstanding base runner. You won't see a handful of base runners do that with his team trailing by 3 tagging up, and in the event that the throw wanders off second base, to continue in there.
I want to go back to what you may add before the trading deadline, which is 3 Central Time tomorrow. I'm sure you're aware that your ball club, the Cardinals, has more losses in games where you've had a lead than any team across Major League Baseball by a lot. You look at Milwaukee, you look at Pittsburgh, they have hammers down at the back end of their bullpen. That's got to be an area where you are at least exploring.
It is, but I do think what Salas has brought for us has really been more than just a Band-Aid. I mean, he has solidified that role. And for us, it really came down to just early on in the season when we kept giving up those types of games. And I do feel confident in what we've done. I do think the additions we've added to that bullpen will also make it stronger.
Zebchinski, one of those guys, right?
Absolutely. I mean, he was key in that trade. Obviously, a left-hander that we were really thin on, and we don't have any coming at the moment. So adding him and having him under control for the next 4 years is important.
Runner at second with 2 out, and Freese is up on the count 3-0. David Freese, who, as we mentioned, homered last night. Well, this is a guy that if you could ever keep him healthy for a full year, I think he could put up big numbers. I know it's been frustrating.
Well, he's an exciting player, but you're right. I mean, part of this game is your durability, and he's got to get out there.
Here is a strike from Rodrigo Lopez in the count 3-1. And there are the numbers, which has been frustrating for John Mozeliak, Tony La Russa, anybody in that dugout with this organization with blown leads. As Freese grounds to Darwin Barney. Thank you, sir. So nothing official on Furcal, but you're gaining on it.
We're working.
And you're going to leave Pujols for another day.
That's correct.
John Mozeliak, as we've played 3, 5-2, Cubs on top. The 4th inning here in St. Louis. Cubs got 5 in the first. Cardinals got 2. Loesch has retired 7 straight, and he deals a strike to Soto, who got the big hit in the first inning. His 2-out, 2-run double made it 2-0 and led to the 3-run shot by Soriano, who waits to hit next. Ball and a strike. And now strike 2. What a couple of days it's been for sports fans in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Hunter Pence, acquired by the Phillies, and what a player he is.
And not only that, the Eagles get Nnamdi Asomugha, regarded as certainly the best free agent cornerback on the market. And he and Darrelle Revis are in a class by themselves in the NFL.
$60 million for 5 years.
Yeah.
Is that the number?
That was the number.
Wow.
And a strikeout is the second of the day for Kyle Loesch. You know, I've said, and I said it on an Eagles game. I don't know if I've said it with you on the baseball side, but I think those two franchises are the 2 best run franchises in the 2 sports that we mainly cover other than NASCAR here at Fox. You think of what the Eagles have done, Andy Reid, what their scouting department does with street free agent, what Ruben Amaro has done as you see those deadline deals with Halladay and Oswald getting Cliff Lee back, now getting Hunter Pence, who's a great guy, and finally that right-handed bat for their lineup. I mean, they do it year after year after year. And to me, a team that I believed was going to walk to the World Series and the Phillies coming into the year, I think the road just got even easier with Pence in that lineup.
The 2 best run franchises a long block apart in South Philly.
Yeah. And they've got money, no doubt. They've got fans that pack those 2 stadiums. And they've got fans that, you know, when you consider that Ruben Amaro didn't have to give away Vance Worley, who's been so good, filling in for Joe Blanton in the rotation for Philly, didn't have to give up Dominic Brown. To this point, it was sent out, but is still one of their top young players. Gave up 3 young guys and a player to be named. It was an impressive deal. 2 out. Today's game presented by AT&T is sponsored by Pepsi Max. 0 calories, maximum Pepsi taste. And by Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Well, two driving forces and very intelligent men, Jeffrey Lurie of the Philadelphia Eagles and David Montgomery of the Philadelphia Phillies. Smart guys who know what they're doing.
With 2 out, here is Tyler Colvin, who struck out his first time in a breaking ball. It's a good tight one from Loesch, who's retired 9 straight. Strike 1. Cubs have to be wondering what happened to Tyler Colvin. As a rookie last year, hit 20 home runs. He's been up and down this year, and his average is 110 with only 2 home runs, 9 RBIs.
No study's ever been done of this particular statement, but young guys should be developed in winning atmospheres, and that's one of the problems the Cubs have. When they develop young players, it's going to be in a losing atmosphere. Over 100 years since their last World Series, and that crops up all the time, and young players have to deal with it, older players with the Cubs too. But it's much more difficult to develop young players when you're losing as opposed to the other way around. The Cardinals, on the other hand, have just the opposite problem. They develop players in a winning atmosphere.
Loesch is settled in after 500 runs in the first. Retired 10 in a row. Bottom of the 4th inning, rolls in 5-2. Cubs on top. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning, and Schumacher, who had an RBI base hit up the middle with 2 out in the first, takes a strike after showing a bunt. Rodrigo Lopez has settled in as well after a long first. You know, it's funny when you look at Rodrigo Lopez from that center field shot, the way his hat sits on his head, he's right-handed, the way he takes the ball out of his glove. It's like Maddox in a Cubs uniform.
Yeah, he does a little bit. Greg Maddox, now the assistant to the general manager of the Cubs, Jim Henry.
However, there are miles between Greg Maddox
and anybody.
Just about.
Yeah.
Two and two.
Yeah, you had to love the game and the way Tony La Russa moves his players around. And we mentioned this in our meeting with Tony today. How many times do you see a young man like Skip Schumacher start the game at second base and then move to right field, and not only move there but get an assist from right field? The reason that's so unusual, that's in the same game as he did last night. The reason that's so unusual is the second baseman's arm is conducive to short throws. He never has to make a long throw, ever. Now all of a sudden you go to right field, you have to make a long throw. He did it successfully. Again, an example of La Russa and the way he handles his lineup and his defense.
Schumacher's a good outfielder, and was a good outfielder when they basically forced him into the second base position, and Schumacher went through some trouble doing that. He's made only 3 errors all year, but he's a good player. 3-2 in the air to left center field. That ball will not be caught. It is a leadoff hit for Schumacher, who is 2 for 2. And we give you a DirecTV game break. We go to Yankee Stadium. Swisher with a 2-run shot in the bottom of the 4th to make it 4-2 Yankees. And Bartolo Colon, who is the de facto number 2 starter now with the Yankees, wins at 8-3. They end a 2-game losing streak, and you can get every MLB game, the most in HD. Call 1-800-DIRECTV.
That's before the Yankees trade for Ubaldo Jimenez.
Yeah. He's not saying that hasn't happened.
No.
I mean, this is...
No, of course not. Just speculation on my part and your part, but I do believe that will happen.
You do?
Sometime in the next 24 hours. Yes, I do.
Well, that would change the entire landscape in the American League.
That's why I think it would happen.
Right now, the Yankees, Tim, are hanging in there 2 out without Alex Rodriguez and with pretty makeshift rotation behind Sabathia.
Yep.
Molina. Another throw over.
But I will say this, Joe. If Ubaldo Jimenez, one of the fine young pitchers in the game, only 27 years old, was started with Colorado with the Rockies. If he does go to New York, it will be one of the great culture shocks of any pitcher traded in the trading deadline.
Molina. Strike one.
And the reason for that, I mean, he lives with his parents about 5 blocks from Coors Field in Denver. His sister, I believe, lives with him also. He started the All-Star game a couple of years ago. He is an enormous talent. And the Rockies are asking too much right now. I think Ken Rosenthal reported that in his pregame comments. But think about him doing the same thing and bringing his parents and his sister to New York City and walking to Yankee Stadium. Not going to happen. No. Just not going to happen.
1 on, nobody out, no balls, 1 strike. Molina, double play ball to Castro. Darwin Barney, 2 out.
But things like that you can get around. And I really think the Yankees are, as we speak, Brian Cashman, the GM of the Yankees, I think they're making a concerted effort to get Jimenez.
It seemed like during the week, as we look ahead to next week, and as we're talking about the Yankees, they're at Boston next Saturday, or the Phillies and the Giants. 4 o'clock Eastern start. Seemed like the Cubs were trying to push Zambrano on the Yankees. And the irony of that is, as Descalso goes around strike one, the guy today, Bartolo Colon, and actually Freddie Garcia as well, are pitching every bit as good as Carlos Zambrano is this year with the Cubs.
That's true.
Here's the 0-1.
But
Ball
if you go into the playoffs, would you feel comfortable starting Freddie Garcia? Nothing with Freddie, but Freddie does not throw hard anymore and has done a remarkable job for the Yankees. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. You can understand it with Colon because he's been throwing 96, 97 miles an hour.
To answer your question, no. I would not feel comfortable.
I wouldn't either. Would you feel comfortable with A.J. Burnett again in a situation where you have to win a game? I wouldn't. But I would feel comfortable with Ubaldo Jimenez.
Well, heck yeah. That's a breaking ball for strike 2. Red Sox, by the way, have defeated the Yankees 8 of 9 meetings this season. So say what you want. They have to prove they can beat Boston.
Yep.
That's foul.
Of course, during the Yankees World Championship year back in 2009, the Red Sox beat them the first 8 games of the year. I think the American League postseason among 3 teams, the Texas Rangers, the Red Sox, and the Yankees. The Rangers are a very good club right now, and don't rule them out from making a major deal. Ken Rosenthal talking about Heath Bell with the Padres. Well, what a job he would do for Texas, I think.
He and Feliz at the back of the bullpen.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
No.
But nothing matters till October. That's the new phrase. I just coined it right there. 5-2 Cubs after 4. Kyle Lohse has retired 10 straight. Deals with Rodrigo Lopez. I'm going to say he's retired 11 straight. I got it out of my mouth before the pitch. 1 up.
So it counts.
And back to the top of the order, Starlin Castro. And just to finish, when I was kidding around about nothing matters or nothing counts till October, that's why I know you like Atlanta as a team that could sneak up in the NL East.
I do. I like their starting pitching.
But in the postseason, with as good as Philly is, and now with Hunter Pence, and with the experience that Philly has with Cliff Lee and Halladay and Hamels, who's been an MVP and an LCS and a World Series, or Halladay who threw the no-hitter last year, or Lee who was, that was the one guy the Yankees wanted to unload for. Heck, even Vance Worley, who Mike Quaddy was talking about before the game, was untouchable when they last faced him. In the postseason with that group, I don't see anyone being able to even challenge Philadelphia.
Prohibitive favorites but they'll meet a challenge, I think.
Here's a pitch in the dirt, and the count is 1-2 on Starlin Castro, the 21-year-old, who has reached on an error that was big that happened in the first inning. An error by Descalso led to 5 unearned runs. He's popped up. We could pitch called ball 2.
Particularly in the first round or in the second round. You look at a team like the San Francisco Giants, who just acquired Carlos Beltran this year.
Here is Freeze, who takes care of Castro. 2 out. Direct TV game break as we take you to Toronto. And that's a home run by Mike Napoli, a solo shot off Jesse Lish. 3-0 Texas. And here is Adam Lind rounding out to short to end the game. And it's a win for Texas. Final of 3-0. And that for Derek Holland, his 4th shutout of the year. You can get every MLB game in the most in HD by calling 1-800-DIRECT-TV. And that's outside, a ball and a strike on Darwin Barney.
Thing about the San Francisco Giants is their bullpen is very much underrated. Jeremy Affeldt, Brian Wilson. I think they can keep up with Philadelphia in the postseason.
Here's an error by Freeze. A wide throw on a routine play, and that is error number 2 on the day for St. Louis. And again, we kind of brushed by it before, but Dave Duncan's pitching philosophy, and he's clashed with some guys over the years. Forget about the strikeout, pitch to contact, use your defense, and this is not a good Cardinal defense.
No. Well, as we said with John Mozeliak, the general manager, you're not gonna change your third baseman. He's going to be the third baseman if he's healthy, but they can change the shortstop and probably will.
With Rafael Furcal as they try and finish that deal. David Freese commits his 7th error of the year. Descalso his 7th. The first inning, Terrio, who's at second base today, has 16. Pujols has 9. You know, for all the pluses for Albert Pujols, this has been a year where a guy who's won a Gold Glove at that position has committed 9 errors. And it was a career .325 hitter, hitting .278. The count goes to 2-1 on Aramis Ramirez.
And Joe, when you talk about defense in baseball, what you're talking about primarily is defense on the infield, not defense in the outfield. In football, you're talking about, when you talk about defense, you talk about a running defense, a pass defense, defense all the way around, but not so in baseball.
Counts 2-2. This is
you got to catch the ground balls that should be executed as outs.
And the Cardinals have not done that during stretches. They have 74 errors. 3rd highest total in the National League now. Here is a 2-2 to Ramirez. Jammed him a bit, flied into center for John Jay, and that will send us into the bottom of the 5th inning and a view of the Gateway Arch. 5-2 Cubs with the sun peeking out here in St. Louis. As we go into the bottom of the 5th inning, Kyle Loesch is first up. Rodrigo Lopez has helped himself here the last month and a half with the Cubs. He was rescued out of AAA by Chicago, was in the bullpen early, and now in the rotation, and he's proving he can be a back into the rotation guy as Loesch grounds out to Ramirez. 1 out. Lopez has been with San Diego, Baltimore, Colorado, Philly, Arizona, the Atlanta system, and now Chicago. 77 career wins, which is 5th most all time among Mexican-born pitchers the history of the major leagues.
Numero uno, of course, Fernando Valenzuela with 173 wins.
I was surprised, though, and I don't know if you were or not, but to see Fernando's total of 173.
Yeah, I was too.
It makes you realize how big of an accomplishment 250 wins is, or 300 wins would be in a big league career.
Fernando's first year was a strike season where major league players walked for 52 days in 1981. Fernando 13-5 that year. I believe he had 8 shutouts that year, but boy, he took LA by storm. Fernando mania.
Had a no-hitter in his career against the Cardinals out in LA, and actually ended with the Cardinals. He was on fumes. Terrio's got his second hit of the day. And we'll see how Rodrigo Lopez deals with John Jay and Pujols leading by 3. And there's a list of the Mexican-born pitchers with Fernando on top. Esteban Loaiza, Ismael Valdez, Teddy Higuera, and then the man on the mound today, Rodrigo Lopez. Here is John Jay. Now, when you talk about that Rasmus situation here in St. Louis and how Jay moved in front of him on the depth chart with Rasmus in a prolonged slump, the Cardinals will tell you that they gave him the benefit of the doubt time after time after time. Tony La Russa and the organization grew tired of Colby's reliance on his father to help his hitting stroke instead of the 2 hitting coaches here, Mark McGuire and Mike Eldreddy. And it got to a point, I mean, early on, Tony Rasmus, the father of Colby Rasmus, was blogging about Tony La Russa and saying things online. And I mean, that situation was bad from the beginning. All that potential, they tried to put up with it and finally just lost patience as Jay hits one into right off the wall, and Terrio will dig, and they're going to hold him late in a wise move by Oquendo. Second and third, 1 out.
Jose Oquendo almost grabbed Ryan Terrio. Of course, a third base coach cannot do that. Terrio would be called out, but that's how close they were at third. John Jay gets into one, hits the fence, the base of the fence. Watch Terrio very close to Jose Oquendo. And you're right. I mean, that would have been a severe mistake had Terrio tried to score.
Because not only are you down by 3, but the Cardinals have Pujols and Holiday coming up. And Mark Riggins, who was a long-time minor league Cardinal pitching instructor, now in his first year as pitching coach with the Cubs, walks to the mound.
You know, Joe, other sports, there is a corollary between, as Jeff Samardzija is warming, a corollary between Tony Rasmus, Colby Rasmus's father, in other sports. I mean, you had even as far back as 1950, Carl Malden played the father of Jim Pearsall. It was John Pearsall in the middle 50s. The name of the movie was Fear Strikes Out, and had and I think there are other examples. Earl Woods, Tiger's father, very, very instrumental in the development of Tiger Woods. Venus and Serena Williams' dad, very instrumental in bringing them up. It's when the father-son relationship becomes an obsession. I think that's when the problems begin, and I believe that's what the Cardinals thought was the situation between Tony Rasmus and his father and his son, Colby.
Here's the intentional walk to Pujols, who had homered in his last 2 at-bats against Rodrigo Lopez, including today.
With that said, I guess it would be wrong to refer to John Jay as the heir apparent to Colby Rasmus. Bad choice of words.
This loads him up. Pujols had homered in June against Lopez, homered in his first at bat today, singled, and now intentionally passed to bring in Matt Holliday, who was doubled and scored and fly to center. Yeah, I think it's more along the lines of Todd Marinovich, the quarterback who was just driven by his father and just about driven out of the game by his father. And the Cardinals kept waiting for Colby Rasmus to kind of separate himself and grow up a little, and it just didn't happen. So he's in Toronto. As Holiday takes inside ball one, and Rodrigo Lopez is fighting to stay in the game right now. Ball two. And Rodrigo Lopez is in a bad spot.
On the other hand, this is in microcosm why the Cardinals signed Matt Holliday, to hit behind Albert Pujols in a situation like this.
Ball three. This could be the last pitch of the day for Rodrigo Lopez if he can't throw a strike. If he throws one too good, Holiday knows what to do with it. He was trying to put the Cardinals on top. Watch this cut. All that matters right now for Lopez is pitch number 77. And it will force home a run and end his day. And make it a 2-run game here in the 5th. That's it for Lopez. Rolling until the 5th. Samardzija coming in. Freeze coming up. Cubs up by 2. After going 4 1/3, he has allowed 3 runs on 8 hits. He's walked 3, struck out 2, allowed a home run, and he leaves a bases loaded 1-out situation with a hot hitter at the plate in David Freeze. And the Cubs up by 2 in the 5th.
Cubs manager Mike Quade saying that Samardzija has been throwing much better lately, hitting 96 with a biting slider.
About 95 under the chin of David Freeze for ball 1. John Jay, Albert Pujols, and Matt Holliday, the runners. Check swing, strike 1. This is a Cubs team that was feeling good about itself after its first 3-game winning streak to end their homestand as they swept the Astros. However, they were swept in Milwaukee. They lost last night. They have today and tomorrow in St. Louis and 4 in Pittsburgh on this trip. To the right side. Out at second, and a takeout slide by Holiday, and 2 runs are going to score as Castro did not get up and look toward the plate. This game is tied.
I think I would argue that play. I'm not too sure Matt Holliday could touch second base when he made this slide. Castro, no, he could. He went over the bag. So while he slid late, I think Mike Quade is out to talk to second base umpire. Carlos Pena is the first one, and now Samardzija is saying go home, go home. But I don't believe he had the attention of Starlin Castro. Now Holliday has got to be able to touch the bag, but what it looked like on the replay was that his left hand went over the bag. And to me, if I'm an umpire trying to make that call, I allow it. Because all he has to do is reach down and he could touch the bag. So, I mean, was the bag reachable? Yes. Did he slide late? Yes.
Here's Samardzija saying get up and throw home. This game is tied. Castro appears to be okay. And Quaddy was late to get out there, and now he's letting second base umpire Darrell Cousins, the crew chief, hear it. And the crowd here in St. Louis is letting Quaddy hear it. And Quaddy's gone.
I think that's a good point, Joe. I think unless you get out there right away, you're not going to win the argument. If you take your time getting out there, I mean, you're not as forceful as you would be had you run off the bench and got out there and got in his face. May still not get the call, but I mean, that's the proper way to argue, it seems.
And a frustrated Mike Quaddy is letting Darrell Cousins hear it.
Had interference been called, by the way, that would have erased 2 runs. Not 1, but 2.
As it is, 2-run score, and it's a 5-5 game. And that's it for Quaddy. Here it is again. Now, this angle is a little skewed, so it's not right down the line. But you see Holiday, who's built like an NFL tight end or linebacker,
6'5",
come in and take out the legs by sticking his leg out and getting the left ankle or foot of Starlin Castro. Here it is from this angle. Here's our angle in the booth, and nice play by Barney. And you've certainly seen guys go wider with nothing called, and Pujols, watching all the way, was able to basically walk home to tie the game. And Schumacher with Freese at first in a 5-5 game takes ball 1 from Samardzija. Here is the damage that was left in the left sock by the spike of Matt Holliday, taking him out.
Spike at the bottom of the right shoe, using that right leg to knock Castro off his feet to allow Pujols to score.
So let me ask you, clean play, not clean play?
Oh, I think so. No. I mean, he didn't hit him. Number one, he didn't hit him above the waist. He tried to go for the legs. That's what clean base runners do, and Matt Holliday's not that type player anyway.
And that effort by Holliday ties the game at 5. Again, if they turn 2, they're out of the inning.
Right.
And it's a 5-3 game. Meanwhile, Freese doesn't run well. He's had surgery on his ankle. And if Castro could have made a throw, they might have been out of the inning with a 2-run lead. And now a walk puts the go-ahead run at second. 2 on, 2 out.
Yeah, with David Freese running on the play, a slide of that type to knock Castro out of commission was required by Holliday. Otherwise, he completes a double play. Again, Freese being a slow runner.
Brings in Yadier Molina, who could give St. Louis their first lead of the day. 8th man to bat in the inning. Molina's 0 for 2. That was against Lopez. Ball 1. The key with Samardzija has always been command. His stuff is electric when he can get it where he wants it. He's come in, given up the force out for the RBI off the bat of Freese. Now walked Schumacher. The 1-0 to Molina. He's into center. Freese does not run well. The throw by Marlon Byrd is not in time. And the Cardinals lead at 6-5.
Very, very good base running. By Skip Schumacher. Going to third base, realizing the throw was high, and it was a decoy by Giovanni Soto. A decoy by a catcher in that situation. He appears that no play is going to be made on the runner. And at the last minute catches it and makes the slap tag. And what it did, it required Molina to come in standing up instead of sliding. Just didn't work for Soto and the Cubs.
And now Descalso is getting the intentional walk. Here's the decoy, and Freese got that left foot on the plate. This will load the bases and force the hand of La Russa. Loesch is the next scheduled hitter. Lance Lynn, a rookie right-hander, is getting loose. But Loesch will come to the plate with the Cardinals up by 1.
This surprises me. I think you got a pinch hit in this situation. If you've got Lynn up, and maybe Jose Oquendo's going to talk to Loesch to give Tony La Russa time to use the left-handed pinch hitter. And now here comes Tony. And now he's calling Loesch back. He was buying time because he just got Lynn up. I think you've got a pinch hit here. And I think Tony had every intention of pinch hitting when he sent Loesch to the plate.
So now Loesch can only be the winner if he gets a decision. Tony Cruz is going to come off the bench and bat with the bases loaded, 2 out. Remember, Lance Berkman is on the Cardinals bench. Still bothered by that sprained right rotator cuff. Corey Patterson, a former Cub, was picked up in that deal with Toronto. He is left on the bench, and Tony Cruz, they're trying to get and you can, I mean, any lip reader can tell you La Russa's telling Tony Cruz to take a strike. They want to make sure that Samardzija, with the bases loaded, can throw strikes.
You know, I mean, managers are surprised by strategy from the other bench. And you know what I think happened then? I think that the intentional walk of Descalso surprised La Russa. And he realized that he didn't get Lynn up in time. So now he's scrambling for time. That's why he sent Loesch out there. And now Cruz will be the hitter.
And we know this, Tony Cruz will not swing the bat until he gets a strike.
I think that ought to change right now. I mean, the runners on base are more important than what time he can buy Lynn.
No, I think he just wants to make sure Samardzija can throw strikes. No, I agree with you there. I think Lynn is more than ready, but I think La Russa wants to see Samardzija throw strike 1 before Cruz gets himself out.
Okay.
And that's why he's thrown 12 pitches out of the strike zone to only 4 in it. Three and 0. And Pena comes in to try and slow down Samardzija. Who is in deep trouble here in the 5th after relieving Lopez. And that's called ball 4. Samardzija's hot as he yells at the home plate umpire, and it's 7-5 St. Louis.
Well, if you're always around the plate, you're going to get pitches like that. If you're not, you're not. And he didn't.
That brings in the leadoff man, Ryan Theriot. Pat Listach, who we just showed you, is the bench coach, former Milwaukee Brewer, Houston Astro, and he takes over for the ejected Mike Waddy. And this 5th inning has collapsed on the Cubs, who are 22 under 500. Been a 5-run 5th and a chance for more. Theriot takes a strike.
Rarely is a 5-run inning where the most important play of the inning was a takeout at second base or an out. Strange game sometimes.
Here is the 0-1 from Samardzija. Strike two. 97 from the right-hander. Terrio has a hit earlier in this inning, and that's what started this 5-run uprising for the Cardinals, who now lead by 2.
That last pitch was an angry strike.
Cardinals are not much of a running team. They have the second fewest steals in baseball, but the base running has been a factor in this frame. Saw good base running by Pujols earlier in the game. It was back in the third. Terrio was thrown out in the first inning with questionable base running, but the effort and the slide by Matt Holliday has led to a lot. The 0-2. All of the 6 runs allowed by Rodrigo Lopez were earned. 4 1/3, 6 runs, 8 hits. 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, and he allowed a home run to Pujols in the first. Lopez had a 5-0 lead, and now he can only get the loss. Terrio with a base hit on the left. And it's 9-5 Cardinals. Now Soriano throws wild. And this inning has been a disaster for Chicago. It's 10-5 Cardinals. Soriano threw to third and threw wildly, and Terrio, who has his 3rd hit of the day, ends up at third base after this sharp hit into left. And that's going to be it for Samardzija. This inning, a microcosm of the season for the struggling Cubs, who led 5-0 and now trailed 10-5 here in the 5th. The big play of the inning. This from Matt Holliday. Mike Waddy ejected. And his Cubs now trail by 5 as the inning continues. James Russell takes over, runner at third. John Jay at the plate. Russell's been better of late. For Chicago out of their pen, Terrio is at third with 2 out in what is an 8-run 5th. There's a strike. And for Ryan Terrio, they give him a base hit, 2 RBIs. His 3rd hit of the day, and then the 3rd run scoring Tony Cruz on the error by Soriano in left. Soriano's 7th error. Here comes a 1-1. Strike 2 on John Jay.
It's hard to repair innings like this.
Strikeout ends the inning. Almost a 30-minute half inning. 12 batters, 44 pitches, and 8 runs on the board. And after 5, 10-5 St. Louis in the shadow of the arch. Very setup man for Salas. The new Cardinal closer comes in. Cardinals are without Mitchell Boggs, who has got a strain in his back, so they're giving him today off. And that has made Tony La Russa's bullpen very short. He also does not want to use his new left-hander Zipchinski. So it is Lance Lynn. His other option is former starter Kyle McClellan, as Loesch can only be the winner. And after 5 unearned runs in the first inning, Loesch, Tim, really settled down and pitched well.
Yeah, he really did. And I think the key word to that first inning, unearned runs after the error by Descalso, and then 5 runs highlighted by the 3-run home run by Soriano.
You can see Lynn has good velocity. The count 0-2 on Carlos Pena, who's 0 for 1 with a walk and a run scored. If you are just joining us, we had a chance to visit with Cardinal General Manager John Mozeliak, who has been busy. That's strike 3. And Pena strikes out to start the 6th. Mozeliak, the Cardinal GM, confirmed that they are close. The Cardinals are on acquiring shortstop Rafael Furcal, now of the Dodgers, and a former longtime Atlanta Brave. Here is Marlon Byrd after Loesch went 5, allowed 5 runs on just 2 hits. No earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. The 0-1, nothing but strikes from Lynn, and that continues. 0-2 on Byrd.
Watch Lynn perform, and you see how late the swings are from hitters. Hitters do not pick up Lynn's fastball nearly as they do most guys, and really the velocity has nothing to do with it. It's his turn, how he.
The test for Terrio, now it's 2nd, 2 out.
6 straight strikes from Lynn.
Any manager loves that. As part of the MLB Fan Cave concert series, Sublime with Rome performed a 30-minute set this week at the Cave. It's getting better and better for those guys stuck in that cave. The band played songs off its new album, Yours Truly, as well as a classic, Sublime. Sold over 17 million albums worldwide, and you can see that performance and much more on MLBFancave.com. Nothing but strikes and 0-1 on Soto. There's the first one out of the strike zone, ball 1. Cardinals in the bottom of the 5th got 8 runs on only 4 hits. There were 5 walks in the inning, 2 of them intentional. Man, they did not pay off. Count 2-1 on Soto.
Those 2 dudes in that fan cave, this is their 1,585th game that they've seen this year.
I'm telling you, they've blown away anything David Blaine has ever tried to do. 2-2. Lynn looks like he's ready for a log rolling competition with that beard when it's about 107. The 2-2. Here is David Freese. Has time, and the inning is over. Bottom of the 6th. Don't go silent on me over there. Come on. 10-5, St. Louis.
Texas Rangers.
That all starts next week. Presented by Gillette Fusion Pro Glide at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. Check local listings for the game and start time in your area. Russell back to the hill, and Albert Pujols, who has had a perfect day at the plate. Homer single, intentionally walked. He scored 2 runs, took a ball.
Reason Joe said that, you may or may not know that in the first round, the teams in the same division cannot play each other. So the Red Sox and the Yankees, even though they have the 2 best records in the American League, they will not be able to play one another in that first round, and the Yankees could very well be penalized if they're the wild card team. All series would start on the road. No home field advantage.
Count 2-1 on Pujols. Down toward the end of the bat. And in is Marlon Byrd, 1 out. Time for a DirecTV game break, and we take you to Detroit as Torrey Hunter rips one into left field on Jacob Turner. First career start for the 20-year-old. And it is a 3-1 game. Angels on top, bottom of the 7th. You can get every MLB game and the most in HD. Call 1-800-DIRECTV. Holiday, who has done more with his legs and his spikes in this game than with his bat or his glove. With that good takeout slide in the 5th inning. Last inning. Is up on the count here, 2-0. Although Holiday does have a double and a run scored back in the 1st. Took out Castro, which allowed the tying run to score, and the Cardinals put up 5 more after that in an 8-run 5th. New baseball for the left-hander Russell. There's some weapons in that Cubs bullpen. Put in their closer Marmol, the right-hander, who, while he has blown 7 saves, has great stuff. And I don't know why he would be deemed untouchable. If you could get a couple of prospects or some major league ready players from Marmol, I think that's something, in my opinion, and I'm not dragging you into this, Tim, but that's something the Cubs would have to look at. And they seem to be a long way away.
I was just thinking the same thing. They are so far away. You've got to develop within your own system, and that's one thing that has plagued the Cubs for years and years and years. And you look at the team over the last 50 years, and really only in the early 60s when they developed Ken Hubbs, Ron Santo, Billy Williams, one of the great hitters in the history of the game. The Cubs farm system.
Here's a foul to keep it 3-2.
Ernie, you point out Ernie Banks, and Ernie Banks certainly a member of the farm system of the Cubs back in the early 50s. But since that time, for the most part, it's been dry. Rick Sutcliffe, a trade in 1984. Ryan Sandberg, a trade that set up the 80s for that organization. Leon Durham, a trade.
Maddox.
Greg Maddux, absolutely, but he signs he was a member of the farm system, but he ends up leaving after the minimum amount of time that he could stay with the Cubs. The Cubs couldn't hold on to him. He ends up signing with Atlanta, and Glavine, Smoltz, and Maddox on the same team for a long, long time.
Matt Holliday takes a 1-out walk. The batter is Freeze. The Cubs develop Lou Brock.
For a while. He really developed with the Cardinals. Lou Brock for Ernie Broglio, the two main players in that June 15th, 1964 trade. And I will tell you for a fact that the Cardinals don't even come close to winning it on the last day of the season that year, were it not for Lou Brock. And Johnny Cain's, the manager of the team's, wisdom in telling Brock, Lou, run whenever you want to. And with the Cubs, they didn't tell him that. They told him, we'll tell you when to run.
Count is 2-1 on David Freese, who has an RBI. And he shoots one into right center field, pretty well hit. At the wall, gone. Back-to-back games with a home run for Freese. And 12-5 St. Louis in the 6th. The last 3 home runs from David Freese have been hit the other way. including this to right center.
Tremendous power the other way. I think of Chuck Berry's song, Brown-Eyed Handsome Man. 3-2 the count, nobody on. He had a high fly into the stands. Rounding home, he was headed, rounding third, he was headed for home. He was a brown-eyed handsome man. Well, the brown-eyed handsome man of the Cardinals has struck again.
Here is Schumacher with a comebacker to Russell. And that's out number 2. Chuck Berry, who was honored here yesterday with a statue dedicated in his honor. Showed you footage of that earlier in the game, and David Freese makes Tim get nostalgic with that shot into right center as Yadier Molina, who had a 2-out RBI hit last inning, part of that 8-run fifth, is trying to pump one out of here, strike one. And in case you're wondering if you are keeping score, David Freese, when he grounded out to the right side last inning before the homer here in this inning, when Holiday took out Starlin Castro, they gave Freese 1 RBI, the other run scoring on a fielder's choice. No error given, no extra RBI given. The Cardinals have put up 21 in this series before a Sunday night game tomorrow night. Westbrook against Dempster. Here's the 0-2. Ball 1. Pat Listash, the acting manager, after Quaddy was ejected last inning. And here comes a 1-2 to Molina. Again, when the Cardinals take the field tomorrow night against Dempster and the Cubs, you wonder if Furcal will be in a Cardinal uniform and playing short.
Waiver deadline is over at 3 o'clock tomorrow Central Time.
That ends the inning, but not before 2 more for St. Louis. David Freese last night with a 3-run shot. That one was actually pulled into left center. 2 of his last 3 the other way. This one makes it 12-5. We go to the 7th. Back after this from your local Fox station. You just witnessed the first pitch of the 7th inning. The breaking ball was in for a strike to Soriano. Lance Lynn back with another, and a fly ball into right. 4 up, 4 down against the Cardinal right-hander Lance Lynn. And just to finish on Soriano, from 0-1 through 06, and I started to go into this back in the first, and then Soriano hit a 3-run home run. Soriano between the Yankees, Texas, and Washington. 5 seasons of 90 or more RBIs, 5 seasons of 30 or more steals. In 5 years with the Cubs, he's not cracked 80 RBIs or 20 stolen bases in a season. Fastball is in for a strike to Tyler Colvin. The average season for Soriano in those years, 01 through 06, was 281. Strike 2. 34 home runs per year, 93 RBIs per year, 35 stolen bases per year, and all the numbers are way down as he's battled through knee injuries and just has never fully been that guy that the Cubs can center their lineup around since he came to the north side.
Well, a guy that we talked about the last inning, I'd like to correct something I said. A guy who the Cubs did build their lineup around was Ernie Banks, who signed with the Cubs in 1953, but he was sent to the Cubs by the Kansas City Monarchs. He was not a a player who got to the major leagues from the farm system of the Chicago Cubs, but came to the Cubbies from the Monarchs, and Ernie Banks became a guy who won the MVP in 1958 and 59 with second division teams. He was some player.
Count is 0-2. Lance Lynn. The breaking ball, fly ball to Holiday and left. 2 out. That's why you're a great partner, because I basically talked you into that. Ernie Banks, as you were rifling through the names, as John Grabo, the left-hander, gets loose here in the top of the 7th with an eye on the bottom of the 7th and the bottom 2 in the lineup for St. Louis.
I think Ernie Banks, Joe, the most genuinely positive human being I have ever met.
You say that as if you know some fake positive human beings.
Well, I know a few of those, but yes, I do.
I'm younger than you, but I've met a few in my time as well.
Phony positive. Phony/positive.
Jeff Baker is pinch hitting for Russell, who went an inning in the 3rd and allowed 2 runs on 1 hit.
There is an awful lot someone can learn about attitude from Ernie Banks. Relentlessly positive and genuine.
Russell an inning in the 3rd, 2 runs, 1 hit, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, and a home run. Count 1-2 on Baker. Now 2-2. Lance Lynn has retired all 5, and now the Cardinals lead by 7 here in the 7th. The 2-2. Impressive 2 innings by Lance Lynn. Time to stretch. Lynn with 2 strikeouts. Grabo coming in. Cardinals lead by 7. And by State Farm, for auto, home, life, and banking, get to a better state. As Descalso against John Grabo goes after the first pitch, pops it up. 1 out. Here are the numbers for Grabo. And Tyler Green, who was just recalled, will pinch hit for Lance Lynn, who was perfect and impressive in 2 innings. Tim, before we go any further, as you look at the numbers for Grabo, Tyler Green digs in. All of us at Fox, and it's on the baseball side and the football side, certainly me personally, and I know you, Tim, want to send our very best to our good friend Gary Lynn.
Oh, yeah.
Who is in a fight at Barnes Hospital and right now is under the weather and fighting hard. We all call him the good guy. He is a great person, a good friend to all of us. And there are a lot of people on this side of the river and the other side of the river, and heck, throughout Fox and across the country, who he's met along the way, who are pulling for him. So we're thinking about him here today at Busch Stadium.
Good man.
Here's a 1-1. Tyler Green grounds out to 3rd, and playing pinball with it is Aramis Ramirez. That's his 7th error of the season. And now Tyler Green, who is probably the fastest Cardinal and who leads the team with 8 stolen bases. A team, as I mentioned, that has stolen only 38 all year. You talk about Whitey ball being dead.
Anti-Whitey ball.
I mean, they don't run at all.
Whitey being, of course, Whitey Herzog, the manager of the great Cardinal teams who went to the World Series in '85 and '87. That time, Tony La Russa was the manager for the Oakland Athletics. Tony winning in '89, the Earthquake World Series. And then he lost to the Cincinnati Reds, a sweep in 1990. Tony's won everywhere he's gone. everywhere.
Terrio's having a big day as he shoots the gap in left center field. That is hit number 4. Tyler Green will score easily, and it's 13-5 here in the 7th.
Ryan Theriot has had one 5-hit game in his career. That was last year on the 25th of April.
All Theriot needed was his former team to come to town. Ryan Theriot hitting 167 in July. Was hitting 293 through the end of June. He came into last night's game 0 for his last 14 as Pena gets the out at first. Jay is retired. Last night, Theriot came off the bench and was 2 for 2 with 3 RBIs. Today, he is 4 out of 5. Make it, 4 out of 5 with a double, 3 singles, 3 RBIs, a run scored. So in this series, he has 6 hits and 7 at bats
against his old mates.
Again, after 0 for his last 14 coming in, and with the rumor mill saying the Cardinals are moments away from acquiring Rafael Furcal from the Dodgers to play short every day. Terrio's at third, 2 out, and the count 1-1 on Pujols. Ball 2. Octavio Dotel getting ready. He comes in. He will have worked in all 3 games since being picked up from Toronto. Worked here last night, closed the game in the 9th. Here's a 2-1. Ball 3 with Holiday on deck. Graybo's 3-1 pitch is launched.
Oh, what?
Foul.
Oh. Most people would have to hit the ball twice to hit it that far. My gosh. It's forever. It's in the 3rd deck. Ridiculous.
That looked like a home run derby swing.
Did. Oh.
Wow. Off the arm of Aramis Ramirez for the hardest out in the history of Major League Baseball.
That's the hardest 5-6-3 out you'll ever see. Off his left arm.
How about the last 2 swings by Pujols?
Man.
And all it is an out. Surprised that Ramirez is okay.
Yeah.
We played 7. Cardinals lead 13-5 over Chicago. Octavio Dotel may be 37, but he can still give you a lot of work. David Freese moves from 3rd to 1st. Tyler Green is into the game at short. And Descalso moves from short to 3rd. Theriot stays at 2nd, and this one sails up and in from Dotel. On Starlin Castro, 2 good innings by Lance Lynn. 13-5 here in the top of the 8th. Albert Pujols will sit the rest of this one out. Strike 2.
Tell you, look at the line score. Here we are in the 8th inning. 5 runs for the Cubs, 2 hits, 2 errors, 1 left on base. Since the 1st inning, the Cubs have had 1 base runner. Darwin Barney on an error by David Freese. In the 5th inning, he was erased. Man.
Now the count 2-2 from Dotel. Octavio's been with the Mets. He's been with Houston. He's bounced around, but he can still bring it. Gives the Cardinals a little more experience down in their pen. Strikeout starts the 8th. And our Burger King mini moment. It really was literally a mini moment. Brought to you by Burger King and the all-new BK Burger and Chicken Minis. It's something that doesn't really show up in a box score, certainly, but the takeout by Matt Holliday allowed 2 runs to score. Brought Mike Quade onto the field. He was ejected, and the Cardinals went on for an 8-run 5th inning, 2 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th, and after trailing 5-0, now lead 13-5.
Yeah, the biggest play in this game was not a thrown ball or a ball that was hit, but on the bases, and that often happens.
Here's Tyler Green from the hole. Shows off his range and his arm. 2 out.
Strong arm by Green to get Barney. I remember asking Don Zimmer, who is so sage, now working as the general manager's assistant with the Tampa Bay Rays. I said, is base running the most important offensive department after all things are considered? Power of a hitter, consistency of a hitter, and he said yes.
And I like what he went on to say. And I was in there with you in Joe Torre's office, whatever day that was. He said, it's really right now the most frustrating part of the game because major league players today are so reliant on looking into the dugout.
Dependent, right.
At the one time he can't really help them with a sign or think for them is on the bases, and they don't know how to run the bases at all. Some guys do. That's why guys like Scott Rowland and others stand out. It's not about speed, but instinct and being smart.
That's right. That's right. Aggressiveness at the right time, knowing when to be passive.
Count still 0-2 on Aramis Ramirez, who is hitless in this series.
One of the best base runners in my experience was Dick Grote, who was an All-American basketball player with Duke.
Fly ball into left center. Jay is back to end the inning.
And he taught me that you don't have to be fast to be a good base runner.
13-5 into the bottom of the 8th we go. By One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB. And by MasterCard. Eat, drink, and be generous this summer. Tonight on Fox, Cops, followed by Cops, followed by Family Guy, followed by the Cleveland Show, and then later in the night, when you have nothing else to watch and your evening's winding down, you can turn on Fox and you'll probably see Cops. Sean Marshall takes over. 5th pitcher of the day for Chicago and the 3rd straight left-hander. The Graybo went 1 inning, allowed 1 run not earned, 1 hit. Matt Holliday is first up. He has walked twice, scored twice, hit a double. Good tight breaking ball. Strike 1 is Fernando Salas, who is the closer, but evidently in La Russa's mind needs work. Getting loose. Dotel will just go 1. That's foul.
How about this game? 18 runs, 14 hits, 4 errors committed. And the game is only a little more than 2 hours and 35 minutes old.
We are not in the American League.
No. I understand that, but in any league, 18 runs, 14 hits, that takes time. Walks, a lot of walks, that takes time.
I've enjoyed myself. It's been fun.
It's
Good to be with you. Had a couple 30-minute innings.
Yeah. But the other innings have been very quick.
But the end was very sudden. Here is our Just for Men Keep Your Edge spotlight, and it's long balls. Albert Pujols went deep in the first. David Freese, who's coming up now with his home run to right center in the sixth. And just as Pujols and Freese give the Cardinals the edge, you two can keep your edge with Just for Men mustache and beard. Good fastball for strike one. Freese hitting .318 now, 7 home runs. Got a 3 RBI day going, and he's in the hole 0-2. 43,784 are in the seats, and most are still here. Game that started maybe 2 or 3 minutes late because of rain. But Mother Nature wanted to watch the Cardinals and Cubs, and after the Cubs jumped out with 5 in the first, the Cardinals have scored 13 unanswered. Team that is number 1 in the NL in runs per game. Ball one high. Check swing. He didn't go 2-2.
Cardinals enter today's play a game and a half behind the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers play a little later. How about the Brewers and their home and road record? The Brewers are 23 games over 500 at home and 14 games under 500 on the road.
They need to stay in better hotels, I guess. 2 out. Here's a look at the NL Central and the top 3 contestants. Andrew McCutchen. Good pitching up front in the rotation of the Brewers. The bullpen for Milwaukee now with K-Rod being an addition. Obviously Hanrahan of the Pirates. Cincinnati 6.5 out, but Tim with that telestrator pointing out the ankle injury by Ricky Weeks, an all-star, and that injury did not look good. Serious ankle injury going down to first the other night. And he could be out for a long time.
Well, they said 2 to 6 weeks. I think it's closer to 6 than 2, just judging from a mother-in-law survey. Which means it was just an opinion.
Here is.
I don't want to get into trouble with mother-in-laws. Please.
That can be easy to do. We go into the 9th inning.
Not mine.
Anything else from your routine? 13-5 into the 9th. 8, and he moves Yadier Molina down to first. Got to be a nice change. Corey Patterson takes over in left. Holiday is finished, and Fernando Salas is now on the mound. Molina to be able to take the gear off and stand up and watch the end of this game from first as Pena leads off against Salas and looks at ball 1. Carlos 0 for 2 with a walk and a run scored. Salas, who was taken over as the Cardinal closer and has really filled a role. Remember, the Cardinals started the year with Ryan Franklin. He is retired or left the team. I don't think he's officially announced his retirement, but that's where he seems to be headed. Went home. And now it's Salas who finds the strike zone. It's 2-1. Cubs are in danger of going 23 under 500. Cardinals 7 over. And Kyle Loesch is 3 outs away from his 9th win. David Freese and Mark McGuire talking it over, and there is strike 2, and there at the bottom of the screen, the Texas Rangers have acquired Yui Hara from the Baltimore Orioles. He is a good one from Baltimore, and that may take and will take Texas out of the running for Heath Bell.
Which means he'll open up to perhaps go to another team, because you almost feel certain that Heath Bell will be traded to someone.
Could be St. Louis. They seem to be kicking the tires of that for a month, maybe 2. Heath Bell had told, as Marlon Byrd stands in, had told Texas he was willing to set up. And if that's the case, then he's in play for just about anybody.
Sure.
Any bullpen could use Heath Bell.
Sure, with his talent.
Marlon Byrd gets a base hit. That's off the left arm of Tyler Green, and Byrd trying to turn it into 2. Hustles into second, and he's safe. Probably a straight double. And it is.
Your comments earlier in the game about Marlon Byrd, and about if you were a general manager and he'd be among the first guys you would try. This is the reason. I mean, here the Cubs are down 8 runs in the 9th inning. Marlon Byrd not only busting it to first, seeing that he could go to second, and does. He puts the effort in a game like Hunter Pence does, who went to the Philadelphia Phillies. Some guys do it subtly. Marlon Byrd and Hunter Pence are guys who exhibit it. I mean, every animated form of their fiber is always into the game, and it's great to see guys like that who hustle all the time and not selectively.
He's got another year left on his deal. Pretty reasonable money.
That's the thing about Hunter Pence. I mean, with the Phillies also, he's a relative bargain, and I think the Phillies locked him up for 2 more years, 1 for sure. I think he's locked up through 2013.
Across the Phillies, a couple of top 50 prospects from their organization, top 50 across baseball. But there's ball 3, dips down and away. That's a Phillies team that is built to win right now. With their rotation, their lineup, they're not a young, up-and-coming team, obviously. They got a lot better with Hunter Pence. Full count. They've been lacking that right-handed bat, obviously, since Jason Worth signed that monstrous deal with Washington. Soto got under it, flies it into left. Patterson, former first-round pick of the Cubs, part of the deal with Toronto for St. Louis, hauls it in, and with this win, and the early projections are in, we are projecting the Cardinals the winners of this game. They will be a game out, even though the record was not correct. They would be 57-50. Here is Soriano. And that could be the end of the day. Yadier Molina. Cardinals win it 13-5. Most the winner, 9-7. Rodrigo Lopez the loser, 2-3. 2-hour 43-minute game. The Cardinals have trailed 5-0 after a half inning. Win it 13-5. You're not finished with us, though. Oh no. We're back after this from your local Fox station.